So this week we are exploring this idea of cultivating self-compassion from ourselves towards ourselves. So last week we were talking about the flows of compassion, if you remember. That compassion, the feeling of compassion, can come from another to us. It can flow from us to another person, and it can flow from us to us. So these are what we call sometimes the flows of self-compassion, of compassion. And today we are focusing on how can we begin to cultivate this feeling of loving kindness, this feeling of compassion from ourselves towards ourselves. And in many ways I find this a very empowering principle. The fact that we can actually cultivate and in some ways almost you could say rely less on, and this is not that we don't need it from other people, but it's like, how can we begin to give that to ourselves? How can we begin to feel this loving kindness from ourselves to ourselves? So that's like a very empowering thing to even begin to explore, rather than feeling like we always have to get compassion or love or validation from other people. And yes, it is important to get affection and validation and so on from other people. That's very important. But this approach, this course, teaches us to offer that to ourselves. So that's quite an important kind of difference in how we approach this feeling of self-care, this feeling of loving kindness. However, I must also say that I think this is, it sounds much easier in theory than in practice.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is quite a big journey, and for a lot of us, just the thought of directing kindness towards ourselves can bring up opposite emotions and resistance, and what we sometimes call the backdraft effect. So this is not something to be underestimated, and this is also not something to be rushed in any way. Self-compassion cultivation, it really does take time, and I would say it is luckily definitely possible to cultivate loving kindness and self-compassion, and we know this from neuroscience, we know this from many years of experience and lots of experience with the reflective traditions and so on. But it's almost like important to know that in many ways this is the hardest work of them all. Like, you know, self-compassion is the water that we need to drink to live, yet for some reason it's very difficult to drink this water. And it's not because there is something inherently difficult about self-compassion, no, or that there is something difficult about the feeling of loving kindness and self-empathy, or this unconditional positive self-regard. But it's more to do with the fact that there are so many obstacles, inner objections, this feeling of not deserving. It's almost like we have all these walls and all these blocks that, because of our life circumstances and life experience, and usually early childhood experience, we kind of put them up. So it's almost like there's this impenetrable kind of wall that we've built up around ourselves, and it's very difficult for the sunshine to get through.